Okay, now about ratings. Let's go ahead and pick Don't Talk, I guess. We'll just look at the details. And every song can have a rating. Right now it's set at 0%, which is basically neutral. You don't really like it a lot, you don't dislike it a lot. It's just same. First, let me tell you what the ratings are about. In fact, it kind of says right here, increases or decreases the chance that this song will be randomly chosen. So, when you're in MP3 player, mixed disc, or playlist mode, you'll have the option of randomly adding songs, and which songs get picked and which ones don't is based on a number of different rules, and there's a matter of probability that a song will be picked or not. So we can affect that by setting the rating. If I really like this song, I can move the rating up to 50%, or I can move it down to negative 50% if I really don't like it. If I somewhat like it, I can have it somewhere in between. And if I really like this whole album, I could set it and then copy that to every song in this album. The ratings really only affect the random selection. So that's what this is about. You can also click never randomly select this song, and obviously it wouldn't necessarily change the rating, but it would never be randomly picked. Okay, remixes. You probably wouldn't want to do this until your library is already well refined and you have the correct information about all the songs. So I'm going to close this library and open one that I already have refined. This one's still kind of a mess. It's just kind of for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to open this library. No, I do not want to append it. I want to close the existing one. Let it read the contents. And let's do a search for oh, I know, Another Brick in the Wall. Probably have a bunch of remixes of that song. And there's Another Brick in the Wall, Another Brick in the Wall Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 2, Part 2. So I have a lot of remixes of Part 2. So, and I think this is actually a remix of Part 2. You can drag that to the player icon and play it. Yeah, you probably couldn't hear that, but yeah, it's a remix of Part 2. So, if I double click on the file, so now let's click View Remixes, and we have no remixes yet, so I'm going to click Auto Find Remixes, and it's going to look for songs that are probably remixes. And expand the title here a little bit so I can see. Yeah, see, we got Part 1 here. I'm going to contract some of these. Alright, so I don't want Part 1 because this is all remixes of Part 2. So we'll remove that one, remove Part 3, Part 1, Part 3. So here's just remixes of Part 2. And that's it. Close. And what we've done is we've created an association between all of those songs. Most of the time you're only going to have one or two remixes. You're not going to have a bunch of them like I do. Another method is right here, without going into the details at all, you can just check mark all of the songs that are remixes, and then click up here in the menu, Library, Tools, and set all checkmark songs are remixes of the same song. And confirm, and that's it, it's done. So uncheck. Be sure to not have any other songs checked when you did that. You see here I have a search filter applied where I'm only showing these songs, so there could potentially be other songs that are checked but you don't see them on the list because they don't match the search. The reason you would want to define remixes is because you have the option when you're filling your MP3 player, your mixed disc, or playlist with random music to not include remixes of songs that's already picked, or if a song was chosen recently and is, say, for example, 40% less likely to be chosen again because it was just picked recently, then you also have the option of having remixes of that song to be 40% less likely to be chosen. So basically it's all just about keeping your music, your random mix of music, fresh and new and not listening to the same song. Okay, another thing to do after this is probably best to wait until you've refined your library and you have artist, album, title, genres, everything set. You could probably do it beforehand, but it's best to wait. Is neighbor link chains. What that means is that you can link two or more songs together, and if one of those should happen to be randomly picked for your MP3 player or your mix disc or your playlist, then the others will be picked as well, and they'll be put into the correct order. This is especially helpful for intro songs. I'm thinking The Division Bell by Pink Floyd is a good example, because Cluster 1, if Cluster 1 is basically just an intro to the next song, so it would be kind of annoying to be listening to your MP3 player and Cluster 1 randomly pops up and you're expecting to hear the next song, What Do You Want From Me, but it doesn't come up. So if you create a link between these two songs, then they're basically treated as one song as far as random song picking goes. And the way you do that is just double click on either one of them and click View Neighbors and put a check mark in down here. This second box represents the next song, the neighboring song after this one, and the first checkbox represents the neighboring song before this one. So if this were track 2, then this would represent track 1. This is the first song in this album, so the song before this in the library is from a different album and you cannot pick it. Once you've created a link between the two songs, you do not need to go to the other song and link it, because it already is. So those two songs are linked. If I wanted to link in the third song, I can do that here. And now if we go look at the third song, we see that it's linked to the second. If I break the link here, broke it back here too, because I really just want those two songs linked. If I were to link the entire album together, then that could be bad, because if any one of the songs in the album were randomly picked, then the entire album would be added, unless there wasn't room on the MP3 player for it, or the mix disc. You can turn off this feature without breaking the links here in Settings. It'd be under Randomizing right here, Use Neighbor Links.